Whoa, this is the Illusion reporting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth. I'm here in downtown Newhall, California, right next to Santa Clarita. It's kind of a trippy old downtown, dude. I had no idea it was here. I'm here for random reasons. I had some time to kill, and Trevor asked me to make a video about how do you know when God's assignment, when you're doing God's work, and you know that seems pretty tricky some days, because right, some days nothing's happening, other days it's all happening, and you're on fire, right? You're on fire for God. You're kind of doing what needs to be done. And this is my take on it when it gets slow. That's what the faith is, right? You have faith. You know that you're on a big assignment from God. You just don't know what you're doing. And so, prime example is this. I'm kind of fulfilling like a mission to be of service for someone right now. That's why I'm out in Newhall. I'm helping someone out who needed some help, and I needed to get them somewhere, and well, we're here, and I'm using my time, so I thought I would make this video about God's assignment, right? And this is what it is. So I'm walking around this old downtown, and I'm kind of like tripping out, like, oh, this is kind of rad. It's sort of old school, modern. It's got a huge Mexican vibe, but it's also got this weird hippie vibe going on too. Like, right, you know, there's a lot of taco shops, and there's like a lot of like hippie or health, you know, fancy soap shops, if you will, right? And so I'm like, you know, I'm gonna make a video about how do you know when you're on God's assignment, and what are you doing? Sometimes you know you're in God's assignment. This was advice I was given early on. You need to pick two things in your life that are sort of peripheral. They aren't something you're gonna bump into every day. And you put them as markers so that it'll remind you of when God is present, because God is always present in your life. It's only our human mind that tells us we're not in God's grace and glory, right? Our ego, our predisposed mind to self-talking, the self-talking mind, distraction, anger, frustration, love, happiness. There's all sorts of ways to lose that conscious contact with God. So you kind of pick these two peripheral things that you're not going to see all the time, but the odds that you see them are potentially there. And you put that into the universe. You go, okay, these are my God markers. And you kind of roll around life, and then you'll see them, like you'll see one of them on like a billboard, or someone will say something, or you'll see a scrap of paper on the ground that's got that written across it, or whatever it is. And then it'll remind you that, like, oh yeah, you're always in God's space. And though it may not appear that you're on a mission for God, you're always on a mission for God. Once you are with God, there's nothing that you're doing that isn't part of God's mastery, right? As an alcoholic, on step 3, I turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him, which means that at any given moment, I'm in God's will, I'm in God's grace, and it's not for me to even figure it out. It's for me to actually just let it unfold how it's supposed to. And so when we're doing this interaction with God, right, we're rolling around, and it just happens, right? So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go walk around this downtown and just kind of explore it. And I walked all the way down to the end down there, right? Like I walked all the way down there, and it's kind of nice. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, I need to find somewhere to make a video. And I was gonna sit down there and make it, but there was like a cross street, and there's too much traffic. It's kind of noisy, right? So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get up and move. And I found this bench right here, and this, you know, nice little landscaped bench here, and it's all mellow, and you know, families are walking around doing their thing, and I'm like, all right, it's time to make a video. So I'm sitting down here at the bench, and I start the video. Well, what am I sitting in front of? I'm sitting in front of a church office, right? Okay. And then I'm also happen to be like in front of Zoe Children, which is apparently an organization, according to the thing that's sole purpose is to end child trafficking. And so there it is. Maybe the whole point of this is to expose Zoe International to end child trafficking, and maybe there's a reason that this comes up on this video. Maybe there's the sign that I'm in God's grace and glory because I'm right in front of a church, and this is something that is very much we can be concerned about. So again, is how does it work? We don't know. God is too infinitely beautiful, too infinitely detailed for us to even bother to figure out. It's like it's that weird thing for like, it's almost the equivalent of people who don't believe in God and go, well, how does the whole concept of bumblebees and flowers work? And honey and all of that stuff, and them be like, there is no God, like it's all just random. None of it's random. So if you apply the same sort of concept to pollinating bees and what bees do for humanity, and then you apply that as a template of God's interconnected web of just abundance and grace and beauty and just sublime logic, and just you be part of it and not look for any major signs of just allow yourself to be in God's grace and God's glory and move accordingly through this life, knowing that you are on God's divine mission at all times. And even when the mind flags or the heart feels whatever way, you have faith. You understand that you are always in the business of carrying the message of God. You're always in the business of saving another alcoholic, not saving, or helping another alcoholic achieve sobriety. You're in the business of representing divinity, of grace, of forgiveness, of love, of all of these things. And yeah, sometimes it's just pretty much sitting on a bench in front of some random building and looking over and being like, that's the message that these people are up to. I don't know if it's a good organization or a bad organization. I don't know. I'm not here to try to figure it out anymore. That's part of the thing, is don't try to figure it out. Don't even try to figure out what God's got you doing. Just know that you've turned your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him, and let that just be what guides you, and act accordingly. And I'll say, it's the thing I keep saying, is get rid of your shadows. Get rid of the things that are holding you back, the darkness, the skeletons in your closet, whatever they may be, because that is what would block ultimately the tapestry of God's divine work. Is you. You're the only thing that gets in the way between you and God. It's you. There's nothing else. And so in order to receive the signal, you have to be clear and conscious enough to allow the signal to be received. We don't know what the signal is. God is the signal. And God, if God is everything, of all times, all space, all dimensions, of infinite possibilities, infinite potentials, and the number one aspect that God shows you is His creativity. I don't know, dude. Just allow it to occur. Allow God's grace to occur, because just because the moment there's not some divine moment from your perception doesn't mean that you're not in a domino effect of divinity, where like it's just one moment, one footstep leading to another and to another and to another. And as you travel those footsteps, you find out what the divine message is. So with that said, God bless you. Thank you, Trevor, for having me do the video. Links down below if you want to support the channel, and just let's get busy living. All right, this is The Illusion signing off from Newhall, California.